Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. We've come to the last, but definitely not least, sessions of SCxSC versions 2020. And this is the Meet the Regulators session. And as you can see, three great people who have been responsible in the regulatory work done by Securities Commissions in Malaysia. Without further ado, I would like to introduce them. We have with us Chin Wei Min, Executive Director. We have Azrina, who's part of the innovation team, as well as we have Chen Zong Yang, the Assistant General Manager of Innovation Team of Securities Commissions as well. All right, but before we start getting into questions and answer session, and this is your opportunities for you to be asking questions to the regulators. And to do that, since we are on online mode, get to slido.com and enter SCxSC 2020 for you to be asking them questions and having your questions to be posted. And depending on time, definitely, I will then be raising these questions to the relevant speakers among three of them. All right. Before we start, I am going to be posing some questions to these three important people. We'll start with the boss. We'll start with Chin Wei Min, and maybe I'll get him to give everyone a quick update, maybe a big overview on the works done by SC, and if there were to be any latest updates when it comes to innovations and regulatory work in Securities Commission. So, Wei Min.
Thanks, Hizam. I think thanks again for hosting, moderating these sessions. Again, I think this is a great experience for us. The first time we are doing this SC by SC virtually, and we're quite glad that I think the last 3 days has gone on quite well. I'm quite glad many of you have dialed in, and I just add on to my chairman's remarks that I think very happy to see so many people are very interested in this event that allow us to do this. Again, I think I will just repeat some of the comments that made by my chairman, but I will maybe give you an update of what we have done this year and maybe a bit of an outlook to the next year. Again, many of you have seen the headlines. Our regulated crowdfunding platforms has crossed past the 1 billion ringgit fundraising. We're glad that we will be able to play a part to help our micro and SME space, providing them this much needed financing through the rather difficult period. As many of you have seen in the Monday session, there's an initial setback when the whole crowdfunding activity was impacted, and then subsequently we were able to thrive in that environment and that process, helping the micro and SMEs. We have seen, just the last 6 months or so, we see a tremendous growth in the equity crowdfunding space, which allow us to actually continue to fundraise for the people who are looking for the pre-seed as well as the early capitals. And peer-to-peer financing, we have seen last couple of months, looking at the stats, it has actually get back to the pre-COVID period. And I'm glad that we can actually continue to do that. On the various other fronts, digital investment management, I think we have also seen a great take-up. I can hearten to see companies, platforms like the Wahid Invest has actually able to use this period and allow people to invest as little as 100 ringgit. And we also see a great growth through all 7 of our licensed digital investment manager. On the crypto front, I think we also see all 3 the digital asset exchanges are all live and operating, and we certainly, I think this is a very nascent industry. We want to continue to see them grow, and hopefully, I think coming to the year. Okay. We also actually for this year, I think some of you have seen, I think we have the guidelines on the ESP, and then we will come to the digital asset guidelines, which provide for the facilitating for the digital asset custodian as well as the initial exchange offering, which will be a key focus of our effort for the coming year. And then that will actually hopefully look through that. Last but not least, I'm quite sure many of you may ask the questions. I think we will be looking to further expand our guidelines within the equity crowdfunding and peer-to-peer space, including how we would look at expanding the investor classes that will hopefully be more inclusive that will allow us to fundraise more inclusively. With that, I pass back to you, Hisam.
Thank you, Wei Min. It's interesting to see, and it's amazing to see the kind of progressive work that Securities Commission has done, especially in driving opportunities not only for a certain group of people, but to be looking at it from an overall financial inclusions initiative in supporting. You mentioned SMEs, even micro SMEs, to be able to be able to have access to financial services. Yep. Speaking about working with technology companies, Azrina, you're responsible. You're in charge of Affinity program. Maybe we can use these opportunities for you to be reiterating what's the aspirations behind Affinity and how would the industry be able to take part in Affinity.
Thank you, Izam, for that question, and hello all. Thank you for still tuning in to SCxSC. This is the last session. So it's a good thing for you to mention about Affinity, Izam, because for those who are not aware of it, Affinity is a short for Alliance of FinTech Community. It's really the SC's first digital initiative to try to reach out to the FinTech community. If you may recall, it's actually launched back in 2015. That was the year when we first rolled out our framework for active crowdfunding. At that point in time, we got a lot of queries from other forms of fintech startups who wanted to engage with us further. So at that, so knowing that back in 2015, we do not have associations like fintech associations, and we don't even have FTech at that point in time. So we thought it's good to just kind of unearth the fintech community through this Alliance of FinTech initiative, where we issued a call for participation, and there were a lot of responses and registrants. They ranged from P2P, robo-advisors, even areas which fall within Bank Negara. So what we did was we engaged with our sister regulator, Bank Negara, and then we passed some of the cases to them. So that was really a point where we kind of realized that there are this community which is growing, right? And whenever we are like drafting new framework which covers, say, P2P, because after ECF we rolled out the P2P framework, and then digital investment management, DEX, and so forth, we actually use the Affinity community as our kind of sounding board, in a sense, like we get some feedback with them. We tried out some of our draft framework. We got some kind of input as well. So at least when we roll out something, it's fit for purpose. So that was one of the purpose of Affinity. And now we do have about a total of 431 registrants. And since 2015, we have about 675 engagements on, on interest, fintech interest from across the board, from DEX to digital investment management and new innovations out there. So this year itself, despite the COVID and the need for us to work remotely, we used to actually have face-to-face engagement, but with the advent of technology, we still conduct about 100 over engagements through Affinity, just to show that even with such restrictions, such social distancing, we still manage to kind of respond to the interest, which is still growing within the digital community. And that kind of underscores the need for us to look at new solutions where we can still kind of achieve the kind of objectives that we want within the capital market, and address whatever pain points that we might have, and move forward with new solutions.
Interesting. Thank you, Azrina. All right. Before we get to questions on Slido, I want to ask questions to the crypto man. All right, Zong, there has been quite a bit of a progress actually, in great accomplishments with the 3 DEX, more than 400,000 accounts, and I was reading somewhere that the values of the trade have surpassed 100 million in the month of August, right? I mean, that's a great achievement actually. What's next? And we heard about a public consultation paper on ICO. You want to give a quick update in that space? And this seems to be a pretty interesting topic, because a lot of questions that comes into Slido is on this.
Yeah, I thanks, Hizam. I saw those questions on Slido as well. So let me try to address it all at one go. So I think for those that are unaware, so since 2019, actually, we have already approved 3 digital asset exchanges to be operating in Malaysia. So all 3 of them have gone live in 2020. So Luno went live first end of last year, but the other 2, so Tokenize and Synergy, has also gone live, I think, in April this year. And they are all now 3 operating as per normal 24/7. I think as Hizam, you already mentioned the stats. So I think there are more than 400,000 people that have already signed up. And you know, in August, we have seen the trading value actually blow past 100 million. I think some updates on this part. So I think the first thing would be, I think when we first launched the guidelines, there were only 3 digital assets that were approved for trading. I think some people who follow this space clearly would know that we have now approved the 4th one. So in addition to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple, Litecoin has become the 4th approved digital asset to be traded on our exchanges. I think it's being offered by Luno, and I think Tokenize also offers it on their platform as well. So I think that's probably a small but minor step. I think as you know, this is still an emerging space, and we're trying to see how best we can regulate this, right? So we definitely don't want to suddenly introduce, say, 50 assets to be traded, right? I think that doesn't make sense for our Malaysian public. So we're taking a step-by-step approach. You also mentioned, of course, there has been our guidelines for initial exchange offerings, so IEOs, as well as I think people will have seen we run a public consultation for what we earlier called digital wallets, but I think based on feedback from the industry, we're actually going to change the name now to digital asset custodians, just to be clear about what our expectations are. So I think I know a lot of people have been asking about when the application going to be open, when's the guideline going to be live. So it's coming. I think fingers crossed it's this month. So in the month of October, we will finalize the guidelines. We will bring it into force. And then I think people will ask, so straight away the applications will be open, right? So at this point, I think based on the feedback that we have gotten, some of you would have participated, would know that we have done extensive industry consult. I mean, we are taking some of the feedback into the guidelines, so there should be some changes. But I think, to be honest, I think most of it is per what we have already put out on our website. So stay tuned, I guess, for this month, and then for the finalized guidelines, and the application will be open, and that should tick off maybe like 3 or 4 questions on Slido now. so we don't need to retread this. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Zong. I'm gonna be taking questions from Slido, and just a reminder as well, those who wants to send their questions, get to slido.com, and the password is SCxSC 2020. We've got a bunch of questions right now, and I'm going to be reading question that has the most like. This is a question maybe perhaps Wei Min can answer with regards to the wonderful 2020 with pandemics happening right now, and touch wood, and we're all having it online right now. Touch wood that the numbers are going to get announced in less than an hour, will not be rising from the numbers that we had yesterday.
Finger crossed.
This is on, has the pandemic affected the timeline of SC's current initiatives? And you mentioned about some of the initiatives, new initiatives that SC is working on too right now. Is there anything else that you want to add? But it's really about, has the pandemic really impacted the progress of your offerings?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think many of you would have heard much during the first session when I think a lot of fintech players share their experiences. I would say it has impacted in multiple ways. I think some of them, I think, prompted into action where we actually accelerate our thinking. A good example will be talking about the limits of the equity crowdfunding, where we used to have a lifetime limit of 5 million. I think we have now changed it to up to 10 million. And then it has a talk about the whole fundraising per year limitations, which we also relieve. This was originally in our business plan later part of the year. I think we have accelerated that in view of the whole COVID situations, as well as the importance of facilitating the fundraising activity. So some of those we brought forward in the agenda, and there are new things that we did, whether it's the EAGM, whether it's looking at how do we digitize the whole industry, whether it's a whole payment settlement limit. We have actually brought forward many of the things we wanted to do. But at the same time, there are some specific things that we will actually put backwards a little bit. An example just now, Zong mentioned about the whole consultation we have always wanted to do. That wasn't so easily facilitated during the whole period where we cannot gather. I think now we have completed our consultation. So some part of the activity, due to the situation, I think we will look at where we need regulatory relief, where we need the regulatory facilitation. That we will do. So to many extent, we're kind of listening to the market and then look at what the market feedback, and then as a result, we have reacted, at least we like to think that facilitatively. Looking forward, as you say, next year, we are looking at, I think we will continue to watch the market space, and then we'll look at some of the activities, whether it's equity crowdfunding peer-to-peer, where we look to amending some of this guideline to further refine them. I mentioned just now, looking at the potential new issuer types that hopefully become more facilitative. I think something we will be looking at in the coming year. A lot of the things I mentioned by Zong, as soon as we bring into force many of these new guidelines, whether digital asset custodian or whether it's an IEO offering, then I think we have much work ahead of us in the coming year to facilitate the fundraising activities, as well as many of these things that we have just put the framework in place. So I think that's kind of set the tone for what we're doing now, and then hopefully for the coming year. We don't know how the situation will pan out, but I think we hope that we will continue to be responsive to the market demand.
Got it. Thank you, Wayman.
Yeah.
Switching the questions on, this question is a bit more visionary with regards to robo-advisory. What does SC think? And you mentioned, you highlighted some examples of Wahid, for example, being able to penetrate, smaller markets, smaller investors. Whether robo-advisory will be replacing traditional investments, and I'm leaving it to three of you to be answering this. Who wants to take this question?
I'll make a simple comment first. I think Azrina probably better to answer. Our original motivation and intention, as many of you have read, if you read our industry agenda, was to bring the whole fund management industry together and forward. So from that standpoint, our hope and wish is to be make available to the investors multiple options, right? In this case, whether it's a channel they can use, digital channel to invest, or a radically different model. So in this case, we're looking at the whole digital investment management framework. We're actually allowing people to have that discretionary portfolio management capability through an automated way. I think so that's something we can do. So from our point of view, our hope and wish is for the industry to be all digitized and be able to offer that capability to people they want. Like, I think there are people who, like my mother type generation, who still want the high touch, face-to-face, served by the, whether unit trust agent or served by the relationship manager or the wealth manager, which in turn do that. So we see that, it's not all things to all people and one size fits all, but it's something to some people, allowing the different business model, the different channel, different capability, enriching our industry and allowing us to serve our investor way better.
Got it. Thank you, Amit. Azrina, you want to add on that?
Yeah, if you recall, I think we issued the framework 2016, 17, something like 2016, I think. But the main drive was to really kind of address the need of the digital natives who are really inspired by their mobile phone and all that, and want to do a lot of things just by using their phone, right? And from the stats that we looked at, we knew that the participation of the public participation into the stock market or unit trusts are fairly 45 above, right? So how do we attract the younger ones who really want things to be done easily, more convenient, more accessible? So digital investment management, the genesis of it is really to try to address the kind of demand by these digital natives.
Yep.
But having said that, it doesn't mean that it's only for the millennials. It is also for the other investors who want to kind of explore different channels of investments. And for those who are kind of new to the market, I do look at stats of the robo-advisor, and a lot of them are actually mostly 35 years old and below. So it just goes to show that the younger ones are actually quite comfortable using this channel. And Wahid has shown that the younger generation, post-university and all that, they like to explore investments through a robo-advisory. Why is it easier? It's because you don't have to do much. You know, you just have your goals, and then a fund manager, which is the robo-advisory or the digital investment manager, is the one who's going to make sure that your investments do follow the kind of target that you want to achieve, right? So that's the best way actually to learn about investments. And the advent of spare change investments like raised this year, right, allows you to even put small like 5 ringgit every day, sikit-sikit, lama-lama jadi bukit, as they say. You don't really need to have a lot of spare income at the end of the month to invest. You can actually integrate it into your daily lifestyles, right? So that is the best way for people who want to understand more about investments but don't have to burn a lot of money investing. So usually you know more about investment if you put your money in it. And after you are more comfortable about ETF, about all the other stocks through this digital channel, you may be a self-directed investor, and you can actually go to Rakuten, for example, so that you can pick stocks themselves. So this is an evolution of how different people would go to different channels of investments to suit your investment goals. So this is the kind of investment behavior that we want to inculcate so that they become better at investing. They know more about the investment in the capital market, and we want to ensure that we have a well-informed investor who knows where to invest and who knows where to check if certain investments are legit or not.
Yeah, you described our market categories very well. The 35 years old and below, and very prone to robo-advisors and all that. Thank you.
I'm not sure Hizam, you are 35.
No, but actually, Hizam, I just discovered that even for the Bumi Putra kind of investors who are used to, ASB and Tabung Haji, so they just want to put aside just money and let it grow. So they do go to like Wahid and all, because that's the next best thing to something that someone can take care of their investments usually, So that is the kind of trends we see as well. Yeah. So we look forward to all the other investment behavior that we can assess.
Great. I think this is a very interesting topic when it comes to behavior, and then a lot of the investors into platforms like Wahid, maybe perhaps there's some level of trust because it's Sharia compliance. We'll bring these questions later on. I want to get to Zong. Since you spoke just now about IEO and about crypto, there seems to be a throng of questions with regards to. I know that you said stay tuned just now, but some of the questions really want to understand the timeline of IEO, and then there's a specific questions with regards to. There are over 10,000 Bitcoin ATMs worldwide today. Will there be one in Malaysia? And what does it take? And how does this align with the existing SC rules?
Yeah. So I think timeline first. I think, as I mentioned, so within this month, fingers crossed again, I look at my boss, we will have the guidelines finalized, go live on our website, right? So, and typically the SC will make a press release announcement and stuff like that. So when that happens, you can definitely sign up for Affinity, like Azrina said, right? And then definitely we do a blast as well through Affinity. And then the application period opens. I think we're looking at a month. So I think about 2 months, maybe slightly 2 months plus, for people to submit applications for IEO operator. And then obviously then we'll go into our assessment process. So I think that should be the right expectation in terms of timeline on how long you have to submit applications. I think, as I mentioned earlier, the requirements are already on our website. Actually, we just haven't brought it into force. There will be some minor changes, but it's not going to vary that much. So people can already look at it and start thinking about whether they are interested to apply and whether these are the requirements that you can comply with, right? So yeah, I think for ATMs, we did take a look at it. I think it's not something that we are quite comfortable with now, to be honest. I think the challenge, I think, with ATMs is the current models that we've seen have posed, I would say, significant AMLA risk, so anti-money laundering risk, for the operators, because as a ATM operator today, you can have actually anybody just walk up to the ATM and suddenly deposit Bitcoin for ringgit or vice versa without any sort of, I think, KYC, AML, CFT check done. So these are not acceptable, I think, in a regulated space for us, definitely. I think I don't mind saying that nothing can go without complying with our AMLA rules. So it's not something that would probably work under our guidelines at the moment. However, I think if someone can come to us with a workable solution, I don't think we mind taking a look at it. We have engaged with different parties who wanted to offer ATMs before, but always I think this AMLA issue is the major stumbling block. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I hope that answers the questions of the person who posted questions on Bitcoin ATM. Just now, Azrina mentioned about Wahid, and there are a number of foreign players that have market access into Malaysia. A questions actually, and I seems to be sliding through that questions now. Okay, questions on, as we encourage more innovative foreign firms into local market, how SCs are helping local firms to compete on equal ground with their hands tied with, I don't want to use this word, but it's written here. Maybe perhaps you can qualify that, outdated regulations. Does anyone want to take these questions with regards to, foreign as well as local and the kind of supports that you're providing versus the regulations that are deemed to be a bit more outdated?
Let me just take this on. I think my colleagues here probably can respond. I think we treat everybody equally, at least within the nascent fintech space, foreign or local. I would like to think many of the regulations with regards to fintech, I think I would think they're fairly progressive, and many of you have seen we refine our requirement as we look at the market demand. We do think that the local one, if you look at crowdfunding, the largest one is Pitch In. I think is our local startup. We do have other foreign operators, but I think I like to think that our local fintech firm compete competitively and not doing too badly as well.
Yeah.
Likewise, I think if you look at other space in the robo-advisory and all, I think we are not, there is no biases with regards to local or foreign. I think we look at the competency, the capability, what the value they bring to the market, what is the digital value proposition, does it help us? I think fundamentally, again, we'll look at, does it serve, make our capital market product relevant to our local economy, to our local capability, right? So in this case, if we help finance and serve domestically, whether it's fundraising, whether it's providing the avenue to allow people to invest, whether it's spare change, whether it's portfolio management, these we all facilitate. We are looking at some of the potential foreign participants in specific experiences they bring to our market, enriching our product offering, creating greater value for our investors. I think those we definitely welcome. Again, I think we do encourage our local fintech players to be innovative and continue to add value, and I do think that we still have our best interest of Malaysia at heart.
That's very reassuring to hear that, Wee Min. Thank you.
I think just wanted to add on to that. I think if you look at the operators that we have, you will see that I easily say all of them have Malaysian CEOs, have Malaysian country managers, and actually those that have been interacting with you guys as investors have Malaysian teams, right? I think this is part of SC's mandate as well, to try to build the local ecosystem. We have always, insisted that, if you're a foreign player and you want to come to Malaysia, it cannot be a rep office, right? We always turn away people who say, I just want to come, I want 2%, the sales guy, I don't know, live in Singapore, come 2 weeks a month and jolly. I think we have never allowed these people into our market.
Yeah.
I think we have always insisted that they have proper capabilities onshore into Malaysia, even when they come from foreign, right? So that's why you see that the teams have always been Malaysian in that sense. And I think for Malaysians, this is our market, right? And who better understand the market than us? And you got to demonstrate. I think this is also something that we always face, or we always ask when we look at our assessment is, do you really understand the local market? Do you really understand our local SMEs, our local issuers, our local investors? If you are local and you cannot tell me that, I think then you're just as good as any foreigner if you never do your homework.
Good.
Yeah, Hizam, just to add what Zong has mentioned, it's true, yes, we do have foreign names, but the country manager most of them are local. And when we do our affinity engagement, we can see the evolution, you know, of the expertise and the talent from day one, we saw them, until now, how they are operating. And you can see the kind of technology or talent transfer that happens with the fact that, you know, they get exposure from probably the market that say the platform or the robo-advisor has operated before, but they give that local content and that local feel to address to kind of respond to the Malaysian psyche, Malaysian investment psyche, Malaysian issuers needs. So I feel it's a win-win. You know, at the end of the day, if you can actually develop or allow an individual in Malaysia who's willing to stay in Malaysia and build talent, I mean, that's a good platform.
And SC facilitate that as well in encouraging of these foreign players to ensure that there's knowledge transfer happens within the ecosystems in Malaysia. Got it.
Do that. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, that's very, very assuring for us to hear that. I'm going to still on the topics of RMOs. The questions is on whether the questions is on the applications for new RMOs. As of now, it opens periodically. Whether there are plans for SC to open it throughout the year, as opposed to just once in a while, as to encourage competitions and more innovation.
To my mind, I mean, today we have 24 RMOs, including the 3 DEXs. So there are a fairly sizable amount of the RMOs. I think we have adopted the approach that because this is fairly new industry in the sand industry, we want to make sure we understand the market, right? We stay close to the ground and we continue to engage with the industry. So the end game has always been that we want to make sure we understand the market and then we open for a certain application so that we can actually make sure we're trying to facilitate that, and we continue to encourage innovation for that. And we continue to look at, where people who bring value proposition to the market, they continue to engage with us. I think Azrina talked about, hundreds of engagement sessions we have every year. People bring new innovative ideas. We will continue to facilitate that. With regards to application, I think, again, like I said, I think we also want to get to a stage where the market, everybody get to survive as well. I think there is a space where everybody play. We still think the pie is very big. There's still a lot of white space that we haven't occupied. People who come to us, if you've seen some of the more recent P2P operators come to life, even equity crowdfunding, they either do trade finance, invoicing, or they actually do for peer-to-peer financing for insurance space. So we are trying to look at all the different white space to help people. And people who come with the clever ideas, we have always facilitated that. I think people shouldn't be concerned about, when you have one, I think we are happy to engage, and then we'll open periodically. And as well as, I think many of these things will take time to, as you guys know, especially the new startup scene, they take time to operate. I think that will be the way we actually see the market develops.
Got it. So they can knock on the doors of SC and have that conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, and perhaps use the platform that Azrina mentioned of affinity in getting engagements and having that conversations to at least to be initiated.
Absolutely.
Good. Another favorite questions on Slido, actually, and this is on KYC, on eKYC. Bank Negara has released a policy document on eKYC for banks. What is SC's expectations on eKYC for traditional fund management companies?
Azrina, you want to take that, or you want me to jump in?
Go ahead, Zong. I'll just add.
Yeah, I think for eKYC, I think since I would say 2016, yeah, 2016, we have already eKYC requirements and available for the market. So I think in that sense, all our fintech operators, whether it's our ECF guys, our P2P guys, our DIM guys have always been able to do eKYC. And there are specific methods. We always say, there are 4 specific methods that's prescribed in the guidelines, and which, all you guys would already be very familiar, either the bank transfer or the video call or whatnot, right? I think maybe it's an awareness issue, maybe people not aware, but this eKYC guidelines apply equally to all our traditional operators as well, right? So if you're a fund management company and you want to do online eKYC, it's also all available. And I think I took this question earlier in my session as well. So there is no uneven playing field in this sense. I think what we are trying to do is help our traditional operators now, think of how they can start to adopt some of this. So they might be thinking about it, but maybe they're unsure. I think we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, to help them understand this better and how they can implement this in their environment.
To be fair, I am aware of. I mean, like I said, we have been in this CDD guidelines are already enforced in 2016, late 2016. There are, I know, of brokers, fund managers has already adopted the eKYC approach, for the last few years. I think it's up to incumbent onto our big fund managers and others to whether embrace. In fact, I think some of the largest fund managers today already adopted the eKYC. I think Public Mutual has also already adopted the eKYC. So I think that is an adoption issue. I think our guidelines have actually dated back at least 4 years now.
Do you think it's just hesitation, or it's just pure reluctance of getting onto this digital platform?
No, I think again, it's like I said earlier, it's if there are still customer segment out there who maybe prefer a high touch approach. They feel safer, they feel more comfortable. We are offering the different avenue for these people, right? I think it depends on each, whether it's fund manager, broker, investment banks, whether they want to take that approach. And if they want to take that approach, they can always refer to our CDD guidelines and then use any of the 4 methods as Zong has mentioned. So they can, they don't have to say, if I go to eKYC, then I wouldn't accept, KYC face-to-face in the bank branch. I think that's not what it is. What it is, in addition to the traditional face-to-face, I can also adopt a non-face-to-face approach to do KYC onboarding.
Lisa, maybe I can just add, it could be an awareness issue as well. It is actually contained in our guidelines for anti-money laundering. We don't have an eKYC guideline per se, but the non-face-to-face CDD requirement is actually in the AMLA guidelines. So those like our robo-advisory, all that, our P2 ECF and all that, they do undertake the non-face-to-face kind of thing. So, but that's contained in the AMLA guidelines. But there is a portion in there. Since December 2016, we have enabled it to be done on face-to-face. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Azrina, I want to pick from one of the points that you highlighted with regards to adoption among the Bumiputras, especially when their level of trust with regards to Sharia compliance products, offered by these fintech companies. Tell us more about it, and what are the efforts that SC is doing right now in terms of further increasing that market share, as well as strengthening the positions of Malaysia as an Islamic fintech hub?
I think from the very beginning, Islamic finance has always been the Securities Commission's agenda. We've always wanted to deepen that market. Even our capital market, about 60%, over 60% is actually comprised of Sharia assets and services. But I think in terms of opportunity, the sky is the limit. Digital and technology have the ability to kind of elevate ICM to another level altogether. And we are aware of the fact that, yes, we do have fintech providers that have that Sharia value proposition, and want to encourage more to come in. It is all about proactiveness on the part of the providers of Islamic Sharia services and products, because these are markets that we want to build trust and confidence. Because of that, we are very selective as to who should give that trust and confidence, because we don't want just any Tom, Dick and Harry, and once you kill that trust, that's it, right? They need to rely on operators, on service providers that can build trust, that can grow with them, handhold with them if you know the journey requires them to do so. So that is why we do see the need to kind of deepen the market further, because as you can see, Wahid, the minute you kind of offer something Sharia, there will be demand. An example from my colleague, I just talked to them and they're okay for me to talk about it, is that once 90% of their issuers are Sharia compliant, right? They're issuing Islamic investment notes, and the take up is much faster. It just goes to show that when there are products that do offer that Sharia compliant options, there will be take up, right? So this is about ensuring that the right products come in. We encourage innovation in the Islamic capital market so that these products are more accessible to the wider range of the demography, be it the M40, the B40, and the likes, right? Before that, Sukuk was very much for financial institutions looking into liquidity management and things like that. But Sharia, the Islamic capital market is actually for everyone. So we are there to ensure that more products, more innovation happens in the capital market so that it can address the needs of everyone.
Great. Another opportunities to be increasing access to capital market for the mass, yeah?
Indeed.
All right. Speaking about access and speaking about partnership or questions actually. A lot of anonymous posts from on Slidos actually. And I wish that you would be able to disclose your name. And this is interesting questions about your collaborations with Bank Negara. What will be the game-changing initiative will SC and Bank Negara do jointly in 2021 and maybe beyond?
I mean, the SC and Bank Negara has always worked very closely. I think we have regular conversations at all levels, working level all the way to the governor and the chairman. We have always do many projects together, right? Ranging from P2P all the way to currently all the prescription order, all the way to the digital asset. And then we have always worked very closely. So I think the number one key topic agenda right now for us is looking at how do we revitalize the economy. So these are the things that we are working very closely to make sure the country continue to be able to, we talk about the whole V-shaped recovery, where we play a role, right? We're at the same time watching the markets where it may have any fail points, and then we want to continue to be prepared for it. So we have always looked at that space. Now, relevant to fintech, I think we always look at, this is the space for alternative finance. We have always worked very closely with the Bank Negara. A simple thing that we are right now pushing, hopefully that will come to fruition, is the referral scheme. I think we have earlier looked at working closely with Bank Negara and say, should the event that our micro and SMEs go to the bank, if they're being so unlucky to be unsuccessful in the application, we want to work closely with Bank Negara. Is there another methods where they can actually refer, that be able to give one more chance, one more bite at the apple, and refer that to the whole space, whether it's in the crowdfunding space, VCPE, money lenders, DFI. So many of these channels, we want to work out that scheme. Hopefully that will help our micro and SMEs, right? I think at the same time, in collaboration with the banks, if they can seamlessly, and then will help. I think that will not only help our industry as well as help the micro and SME. These are the things that are high on the agenda on both agencies. We are really meeting regularly and look at what are the key areas where we both can play a role in helping our current situation, and we're all looking forward to a better 2021.
Exactly. I think it becomes a government's aspiration, government's agenda, especially in addressing the needs of the underserved community and those that are severely impacted by COVID-19. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to switch the gear a bit, and this seems to be a very well-favored question. May not necessarily be on digital and innovation. Unfortunately, it comes from anonymous, but I'm going to bring it up because it has gotten a lot of thumbs, a lot of likes. Does SC not realize many licensed and approved unit trust companies use a tied agency model, which is against MyCC rules, to promote full open competitions. What's your view on this?
Let me take this. I think we have, I mean, within the whole fund distribution space, we have, I mean, liberalized the industry maybe about 10 years ago, right? So I think we have, SC never dictated which model. So we can have what on one end, you know, no agency model. That means, you know, all the online, what we're doing now, all the way to, you know, a full-fledged multi-agency distribution model, right? You have seen many of these. You go to any bank, you can actually buy a variety of funds that the bank offers, right? So there's IUTA model. And that's somewhere in between, right? So we have UTMC or fund managers who have their own dedicated agency, but we also allow fund manager can actually distribute via third party as well as their own workforce. So what we're trying to provide or facilitate is the whole gamut of the options. Thereby our investors have many choices. We don't think, you know, one favor or, you know, better than the other. It's just, I think, what segment do you serve, right? Just now I mentioned about high touch. There are some people who actually like certain way to, you know, they want to be a, you know, hybrid model. They want to actually buy through bank branch, or they want to only buy from a particular unit trust agent. So I think all are allowed. I think that's kind of where our view is. We are trying to create an environment where all are possible, so that there will be something for some people in the sense that, you know, it's not one size fits all. I don't think there is. I think that would certainly, I believe, promote competition and innovation, because it allows all different models that exist in our markets.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that, Hizam. I think the question did come out, I think, on day one as well when I was talking through my session, but unfortunately didn't have the chance to answer it. I think maybe the person who posed the question didn't realize that there are other means to purchase or subscribe to unit trust without actually going through an agent these days, right? So whether it's going through IFAs or what we call Fund Supermart, or, you know, even through the banks, I think Maybank is selling Affin Huang Asset Management's products. So there is definitely, you know, you can only buy one product through one channel. So there are multiple different ones. I think and in addition to that, I think this year we have already introduced what are called e-services platform guidelines, right? Which allow or facilitate for e-services platforms such as e-commerce, such as e-wallets, right? To also begin to distribute certain products, which are predominantly, I think right now people are looking at unit trust products, right? So we are definitely, you know, not being tied to the agency model. I think there's more and more competition and more different innovation that's going to happen in this space on where and how people can access and subscribe to their unit trust products. Yeah.
I mean, just to add, even with the newly kind of introduced regulatory framework, e-payment services, right? E-platform services. I mean, that's another way to distribute unit trust as well. You know, so I think you'll see new channels coming out distributing unit trust, and we're not there to say this is the best way or not, but the options are there.
Got it. No, I just noticed the chemistry between the three of you and how you structure your questions, and, you know, one person answer these portions, and then it's just well managed. All right.
My goal is I answer the easy one, and the two get to answer the tough one.
And they answer it well as well. Okay, we have about 10 more minutes. Do submit your questions if you have any burning desire to understand more of what SC does. Send it to Slido with password SCxSC 2020. I'm going to take one more questions and maybe a couple more questions on Slido. Give me a second I had it and I just slided it down. All right, these questions may not be, it's quite well-favored questions as well. This is more on market development, on opportunities for VCs to be investing into our fintech ecosystem, the availability of capital here. What's the strategy? What's the strategy that being undertaken by SC?
Well, I think, again, I like to believe that, you know, if there are good companies out there, I'm quite sure VC will be interested. I think, I mean, the nations have the Penjana Capital Program, which hopefully help, you know, matching that. I do think we are a bit short in terms of our VC space. I think there are a lot of growth that we can look to, and I know that through the budget discussion, there are quite a number of that. I think overall, I do believe that if we can build a vibrant startup scene, not just our operators, but also our issuers, I do think as we continue to encourage and build out the ecosystem, when there is a valuable company, they will grab the interest of the whole VC. The only one which I hope to do is, I think we need more private investors to step in. I think we have traditionally relied on the public investor. So in this case, government step in. I do believe that the government need to step half a step back, and then we need to create an environment where the private investment need to step in. Again, even if it's a lot of money, but there's no good company to invest, there's no good. So I think, MDEC and SC got to work closely to facilitate that ecosystem development. I think that is the core, right? Having good companies, I'm sure the money will come.
Yeah, women slowly pass the baton back to MDEC.
This is what you do.
I think
Can we ask you a question now?
I'm the moderator here. Okay.
I think just to add on to what Wei Min has said, I think Hizam is also aware actually our fintech industry in the last maybe 12 to 18 months have attracted, especially foreign VCs investing in them, right? I think KK Fund, the likes of KK Fund, Sequoia are all taking a look. And I think if you have a chat with, the VCs that are operating here, everyone is saying, Southeast Asia is going to be the hot market for the next 5 years. Everybody's going to come here. So if you have a good idea, if you can run a good business, a good platform, the money I think is not short, right? There shouldn't be any shortage of money in this space. And I think everyone is looking, all the foreign VCs that we talk to all want to have a piece of the action here in Southeast Asia. So all eyes on this region for the next 5 years. It's about, getting to the right product market fit, getting to, the right platform and the right people to run this platform.
Got it. I think it all goes back to how good you are and how your ability to make your company's worth. Yeah. All right. Getting back to questions on still on approved digital exchanges. This one, Zong, you mentioned about 4 currencies right now. This question is on why is it that stable coins and this anonymous person has quoted USDT still not being approved to be traded on approved digital exchanges. Your view on that?
Yeah, so I think stablecoins are an interesting topic. I think since there was an earlier question about the central bank and Bank Negara, so it's definitely one of the other things that we are working closely with Bank Negara with. I think the treatment of stablecoins ultimately in our jurisdiction still needs to be clarified. Typically a stablecoin is pegged to a foreign currency, so whether that will be considered as forex and should be treated the same way. I think these are regulatory and legislative issues that we need to talk through and think about jointly, and then we can definitely come to the market. I think, to be honest, if you look at where the market is today as well, the pairs that we have introduced are the Malaysian ringgit pairs, right? So it's Bitcoin ringgit and Ethereum ringgit and so on. They are the ones that are being traded, and seems like there is fair amount of interest. And with one leg being ringgit, obviously there's a certain level of safety because the money sits in trust accounts in our banks, right? So I would say stablecoins still a topic that we need to work through with the central bank until we can provide a further update.
Yeah, and this is where collaborations between these two regulators work hand in hand.
Yeah,
all right.
I think discussions happening at every level as well.
Definitely. We'll take one last questions from Slido, and at the tail end of these sessions, I've been receiving a lot more. This one, and I think this is interesting, about liberalizations of local financial data. Again, from an anonymous, but I think that this is an interesting question. Currently, those APIs, when it comes to liberalizing local financial data, those APIs are only available for institutions and seems to be rather unfriendly for startups. Is that the case, or it's just that the startups are not aware how to obtain this data?
I know that there is an initial phase of providing the API. I think this is a phase one. I assume you're talking about the API from a payment perspective or the information from the financial institution. I think there is a general direction from the central bank to encourage the bank to open up more. I think the phase one, I mean, many of the activities that I'm aware of within phase one has a limited scope. I think some of the, whether it's a bank branch indicator, where the nearest ATM, where the nearest branch is, some of these may not be as useful, I guess, for our fintech players yet. Providing I do think that what it matters most are the payment gateway, which I think right now you can actually go and latch on to PayNet, which will give you the FPX or whatever standards at the individual bank, whether it's M2U or Clicks, or give you the API. So I think we probably need to look at what is the most required. In this case, I guess payment is probably the most used API, if you like. And that is provided. I would be the first to admit that we're not most efficient, because if you want to connect to 3 banks, you probably need to have 3 APIs, which is why I think right now, I think we'll probably encourage most of them use FPX. Hopefully just connect to PayNet, which in turn you facilitate that. I will be the first to admit that I think this is a suboptimal. It's something we are also working with Bank Negara to see whether we can make that better. But I think there is a general directional plan to actually make this better. I think when the RPP platform comes into the retail payment gateway, that comes into play in the end of 2021. I think with RPP comes fully on stream, provided by PayNet, I would say that will level the entire playing field. And that is, I think they're on track to, the RPP platform is coming on stream. So with the RPP, I think it will solve many of the problems I just described. I think it just takes a bit of time.
Yeah.
That will, I think the fintech startup will be able to access to the RPP platform.
Got it. And
I think,
yeah, Zong.
Yeah, sorry. I think just to add on to that, I think on day one, if people follow our conference, there was a session on data portability, right? Talking about how the Europeans have actually gone ahead with GDPR and being able to facilitate greater data portability. I think as you are aware, if you spend time listening to that session, Malaysia is thinking of implementing some of those principles, and really, we need that implemented in our PDPA to facilitate greater portability of your data, which is the ability to retrieve some of this data from the banks and provide it to someone else. If not, I think from a legislative perspective, I think the current PDPA does expressively prohibit such practices at the moment. So it's something that we are watching very closely as well, I think, and as you can see, that's why we talk about it now in SCxSC this year, and it should be something that when the time comes, and hopefully the PDPA commission, I think there's a PDPA department or commission, works through that, we will definitely provide our inputs on how this can be done.
All right. Thank you, Zong. We have 2 more minutes, and I won't be taking any more questions on Slido. So thank you for those who have submitted these questions. Before we wrap up, maybe we'll get the 3 of you to part with some last words. And given the fact that this is the last sessions of SCxSC for this year, maybe we'll start with Azrina. Ladies first. Any last
she completely taken aback and surprised.
I saw her looking down at you now.
So it's heartening to note that we have received very encouraging participation this year. This is the first time we went virtual, and there are a lot of benefits by going virtual. People can just tune in to the sessions that they want, accessible, convenient, all that. But the most interesting thing is the fact that the interest about fintech is there, and it's growing each year. And as regulators, while we want to ensure that people do embrace innovation, but it has to be done in a manner that is safe, that is facilitative, and it doesn't kill the confidence and trust of our investors and stakeholders. So that is a way to kind of move the market further and ensure that we can achieve further efficiencies and capabilities in the market, and also make financial services accessible to society as a whole. Yeah.
Society as a whole. Okay, Zong.
Yeah, I think
one for you.
definitely, thank you everyone for participating. It's the 7th iteration, right? So,
Wow.
so some people, when we look at the registrants list, have been around for 7 years. Thank you so much, I think, for always supporting us, and also in our developmental efforts, right? So, through affinity and all that, we have always, every time we put out a consult, every time we say, come talk to us, every time, give us some feedback. The industry has always been very responsive in that sense, and that's always very good. And we always encourage you to, every time something like that pops up, continue giving us your support, your comments, your feedback, so that we can take into account when we craft our policy and craft our guidelines.
Got it. The boss.
Well, I would just add on to my both teams. I think thanks to everyone who supported this. I think we wouldn't be able to run 7 years in a row on FinTech conference without everybody's support. So I think this is your first year virtual. I think if there's anything that we have made mistakes, I think hope you guys can accept our apology. I know that there are a couple of drop out during the speakers, but I think the first year, so I guess we will bear with it. Again, I think the conversation doesn't stop here. I think I see that, I look at Slido, there are like, some more questions on there. Reach out to us. I think those questions, if you want to raise, again, I would encourage you to, if you have innovative ideas, reach out to the Affinity team. Want to hear your ideas, and then we can actually take it from there and see, and that will help us expand our thinking as well as shape our policy. With that, I pass back to you, Hizam.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This has been a very interesting discussion. And as mentioned by 3 wonderful regulators here, if you have any great innovative ideas, they are just a door away, or in this case, an internet connections away for you to be emailing them on any queries that you have. With that, we'll wrap up SCxSC 2020, and stay safe and take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks.